Dr. Joan Coleman, and the Xchange is exciting.
I'm Denise Cavalier. The Xchange is real.
I'm Carolyn Poiker. The Xchange is empowering.
I'm Donna Hutchinson. The Xchange is thought-provoking.
The Xchange, a Let Me Be Me podcast. Welcome to the Xchange. You know, today we're going to talk about the stories inside our heads. What does our self-talk tell us? Before we get into it, Donna
Hutchinson.
Carolyn Poiker.
Denise Cavalier.
And I am Dr. Joan Coleman, and today we're talking about those stories that's inside of our heads, our self-talk. You know how we do, right? I want to read this poem. Your self-talk is the channel of behavior control. Ooh, your self-talk is the channel of behavior control. What does that even mean? What does that mean?
Say it again one more time.
These ladies aren't listening to me. Listen.
No, I was
Your
processing.
self-talk is the channel of behavior control.
I think it's trying to say how you are feeling is how you are thinking. And I've really realized the more nourished I am, the nicer I am to myself. The less I take care of myself, it gets real dark. So I think that's kind of the zone.
I think maybe it's also saying, like, we have the shoulds behavior, like these, like stuff from our childhood and all these things. And so our self-talk is maybe trying to keep us in those shouldy behaviors.
That was a good word.
I don't know if I really liked what you said about self-talk. Yeah, I think that's part of it. It's that voice, that still small voice inside of ourselves that keeps us in a certain lane. But I think it's a lot of other things, too. It's an expression of how we're feeling. Our self-talk is a lot of things.
Well, here it says, self-talk is the way you talk to yourself. It's your inner voice, that small little inner voice that tells you, girl, you know you shouldn't be wearing them pants. And you wear them anyway, and then you get embarrassed when you go out. That's something like that, your self-talk, you know. And self-talk, guess what? It's normal. It's a natural part of being human. Everybody, if you tell me you don't talk to yourself or your voice isn't going on the inside, something is wrong. Everybody has a self-talk. There are 3 types of self-talk too: positive, negative, and structural. Just like the voice that said, don't wear those pants, and I wore them anyway, that's instructional. Don't do that, you know. So what's the difference between self-talk and thinking? Just gave you all this information. What's the difference between self-talk and thinking?
Thinking is your conscious mind. That's the one that's telling you based on background and different information in your perception. Intuition is the other side, the one that's telling you the highest thoughts.
When you say intuition, you mean your inner voice?
Yeah, no, you used it differently in your definition.
Self-talk.
You used it differently, but I was like, well, that's your intuition. The one that's telling you to wear the pants.
Oh.
That's your intuition that's like, I know what's best for you, and you're either going to listen to me
Do
or
you
you're
guys
not.
agree with that?
Dr. Joan, this is
intuition?
expansive. Like, I didn't expect to really head down all of these different, because now I'm thinking, like, is self-talk, you told the 3 different layers. Is the voice, what you hear in your head, the
Inner
voice that's coming from the self-talk?
It's the inner voice, right? You know how you're sleeping and your voice say, well, tomorrow you got to get up, you got to go to the bank, you got to deposit the money. And that's the inner voice telling you these things. It's instructional. And then your positive self-talk is, I am amazing, I am enough, I am beautiful, ooh, it's going to be great outside and I'm going to be great. That's positive. And negative self-talk is, oh, you're so dumb, I can't believe you just said that. Oh my gosh, did you hear yourself? And those are the 3 voices that you have to deal with in your inner person, your inner man. Now, do you understand me? Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, but thinking is different than that.
That's the
Is
question.
what you were saying. Yeah, thinking is different than that because thinking is, you read an article and you're like, oh, well, our wind turbines at the Jersey Shore are killing the dolphins. You're thinking. That's not my self-talk. But, and my self-talk, I would say I have more than just, like, positive and negative. I have, like, hyper positive and, like...
My inner child, my wounded adult.
negative.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, those are the three they give us. So okay, so you have your self-talk and you have these dialogues, these conversation. What triggers those things? What do you think triggers self-talk?
I mean, I have a good example of there was something that was happening and I kind of felt complete and totally fine with it. And then there was a voice that went, wait, what about you? How come you got left out? How about this cycle? And I was like, okay, I see you. We've done this voice before many times, but today we're just going to choose not to. So it comes up, but that's like an old part of me that felt left out, that felt abandoned type of thing. So a lot of my negative talks come from those old wounds, and it comes from me deciding today we're not going to be that version of me. So that's, when you say there's more, there's more.
Yeah, there is a lot more. That's true.
Yeah. I would say my more negative self-talk comes up and is triggered when something is happening. You're having a conversation with somebody and somebody says something that's a little unkind or just maybe not expected, or you're in a situation and something happens and you're like, crap, I just did the wrong thing, and then the negative comes in like, well, of course you did the wrong thing, you always do the wrong thing, and you always put your foot in your mouth, and
and they're attached to old emotions and old experiences.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I think the positive self-talk is triggered when life is like feeling like good, right? And everything is like going right, or enough is going right that you're feeling like, oh, I can do this. You're patting yourself on the back, and then you're like, look at me. I'm like Wonder Woman. Yeah. I'm the best mom ever, and I'm so good at this, and I'm serving. And those
I think
things
for me,
bring
though, that takes more work, that one.
It does.
The,
absolutely.
the nice
positive
voice.
one?
Yeah, the wounded child or triggered voice, to me, flows
Very
much more
accessible.
easily. Yeah,
You have to stop
I have
that
to
one.
work.
Yeah.
I
on
work to
that
stop
nice.
that one.
Yeah.
You got to be like, whoa, wait a minute. What's really true here? Wait, let's go back,
Yes.
The triggers are so easy because, like, for me, rejection. Oh, we don't want you. And I don't, and that came from childhood because right now I'm in a place where I'm learning, okay. But, it still gets triggered. Like, if I go to Donna and she's like, no, or if I see Donna on Instagram with you and Carolyn and I'm like, well, she didn't invite me, stuff like that triggers the inner voice. And then you have to say, well, maybe she did and you didn't get it, or maybe you don't want to go anywhere. You don't like that stuff anyway, and you have to like flip it. And there's a thing that says 3 negative, flip the negative into 3 positives. And so you have to be mindful of your self-talk because that negative voice is very strong. It's very strong. And I agree with you. The positive self-talk comes in when you're feeling good, the sun is shining, but let it rain. Let it rain one day. You just sit there like, woe is me, for no reason at all in the world. But positive self-talk is a thing you have to work on daily. You have to work on that positive self-talk daily. So does self-talk have a negative connotation? The whole self-talk thing, the negative, the positive, the instructional, the hyper, the low. Do you think it's negative to have? Does it look like you mentally ill, mental illness?
No. That's a very human response. I think we all have the good wolf and the bad wolf,
But I think probably percentage-wise, I spend a little more time having to calm down my negative self-talk, and I don't have to calm down the positive. That's like, when that's there, we're happy. But
think of how deeply rooted those things are. Think of how inundated we are with negative. How often do we tell ourselves, that was good? That was good. I've been doing that while I drive because I have a driving anxiety, which I've talked about before. And I've started to say, like, when I do things, I'm like, you did just fine.
Right.
Because you never tell yourself you did just fine. You're always just like, criticizing. It's so accessible and so easy. It's a constant cultivation to make that voice get a little louder. Constant.
I think for me, in the past, I didn't always realize that it was running through my head.
Right.
And all of a sudden, like one day, I guess, I was either struggling with something, or I was walking, and there were things going, you're stupid, or you're so stupid, or whatever. And I'm like, whoa. Like, wow, I'm actually thinking these things about myself, and I wasn't even paying attention. It was just running like a tape. And so I think the first thing is sort of getting connected to the fact that what is going through your head? What are you thinking about yourself as you're struggling with something or having a great day? So the awareness for me was huge, and I was like, wow.
Yeah. That's great. That's great because we're not often connected with ourselves. Stuff happens, like I was saying earlier, and it triggers this emotion inside of you. And you're like, well, where did that come from? But you're not, and there is a place. It just doesn't come up out of the blue. It's something triggers the reaction or the self-talk, whether negative or positive. So we have to, I like what you said, be mindful of that. And when I said mental illness, I was actually, don't come at me, it was nothing bad. I was just saying, like, when you talk to yourself, like I would be in the bathroom and I'm self-talking and I giggle and I'm like, girl, that's funny.
Oh, we all do it. Nobody wants to admit it. We all do it.
And, I'm talking to myself. But when you were younger, there's a thing, I don't know if you ever heard of it, say, you could talk to yourself all day, just don't answer. Have you ever heard that?
Oh, I answer.
But I answer, but
Me too.
So that's in the frame I was thinking. It doesn't mean that you're sick or you have mental illness or anything like that.
Self-talk is different than hearing voices.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
When you hear voices, I believe it's not your voice; it's another voice. So it's like a different. That's
I get what
that's
you're
serious.
I get what you're saying. Okay, so let me get up off that point. And what was the last time you self-talk? You just did it in a car, right?
Oh, all day.
Yeah.
All day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's not kid ourselves. Yeah.
I didn't come in here driving because the roads are so long and windy, and I had so many conversations just getting here in 30 minutes.
I can keep myself real entertained. Let's just put it that way.
For
Yeah.
sure.
What was the last time you had self-talk?
Yeah, like 5 minutes ago. I mean, right? Like 5 minutes ago. It happens all the time, and I think probably more when I'm driving, especially if I'm alone, right? But all the time, and sometimes it's positive, and sometimes it's negative. And for me, I have to do a little prayer thing though too, because my self-talk, if it's on the negative side, can kind of just sort of spiral, and I have to be like, oh God, stop, I need help, stop that,
Where does that come from? Why is it so much louder than the positive voice? What happened? Like, what do you think?
You know what I've realized too? Like when you have heightened emotions, it grounds things into you so much deeper. So you're going to feel hurt much longer than you're going to feel joy, because hurt just kind of like digs into your being and it stays there until you sort of work through it and release it. Happiness is sort of more fluid because we're not like gripping. Here we go, gripping.
Why can't it be though? Why can't joy sink into ourselves the way the negative?
But you have to work for it. Yeah. Truly. All the time. We want it to be easy, and it's not. And
we don't have to work for the bad stuff, though. It just flows in.
Why is joy fleeting, and all the other negative things gripping us down?
They feel so charged. The negative emotions feel very charged, and if I feel them re-triggered, then that charge is like kicked up again. Versus like happiness, you can kind of just flow with it. It feels different, but it's accessible. But like I said, you have to. The charges kind of stay there, and that for me, they make memories more accessible too. Like, why are these things so much more memorable? Because they have an emotional charge connected to them.
I think we're triggered all day long. We have all kinds of experiences that come and go, and so we're triggered all day long. Like, but how many times has people come up and say to you, oh, you're beautiful today, or you look pretty. Well, that doesn't happen that often, and so maybe that's why that feels so fleeting.
But even when we do, how much do we struggle with compliments? That's another thing.
But it's got to be our perception, right? Yeah. It's perceptions and the way it starts with how we view ourselves. And then we get triggered all day long. And I know I do. And we have that, that little child is always there, ready to say, see,
I'm listening to you ladies, and the thing I'm thinking about is that it's life. Like life, TV, social media, the news, so much is ingrained into us and impacted upon us that they don't really show too much positive things on these platforms. Yeah. It's mostly fighting or something, body arguing. Yes. So those things feed into us and suck onto us, and so we rarely get anything positive, any joy from TV, unless you're watching a good movie. Yep. But that stuff, social media, is just so much. And so we get these life things clinging to us, and so if anything goes wrong, our first reaction is the negative. So do you agree with that? Do you agree that it's life things? And the life
for
and
sure.
stuff.
I definitely think it is just life, and I think that voice is just part of our life too, because we constantly, it's the way we reflect back to ourselves, our experiences maybe, and the way we talk to ourselves about what we're experiencing in the moment. Unfortunately, some of it is tied to, negative perceptions that we have about ourselves. But I would say it's an opportunity for us to reflect, for us to realize what our triggers are, and then do something about it. Like, whoa, yeah, I didn't realize I was still remembering that hurtful experience, and that pain is still. And then it gives you an opportunity to look at it closer, and then hopefully let it go.
Yeah.
Right?
That's good. Yeah. Carolyn, what do you think? You really indeed thought.
I know, I am thinking about this. I'm wondering, I'm trying to like articulate why. So what I'm thinking is, when something happens, like maybe a whole bunch of things happen, they're all like little things, right, that like weigh you down, right? And then the final one happens, and you're like, see, why was I thinking it was going to be different? And then the negative self-talk starts. It's just kind of silly, because a lot of those things are like nothing, but we let them pile up. So maybe it's really about not releasing all of those. If we could release better, then maybe we wouldn't be triggered. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
It does.
Trying to
You're
figure it
saying
out.
instead of letting it pile on, things happen and you just don't talk about it, or you talk about it but it's still here resting in your chest, and more stuff pile on, and then the last one comes and you say, see, I told you it was no good, see, I told you that would happen. So if we could release it, but how do we release it? If we release it and it's still sitting in the chest, that means we didn't do a good job releasing. I mean, how do we get rid of these triggers?
I mean, one thing I really started to notice is putting space between myself and the emotional reaction. That's rooted to the past usually. And I could feel it coming towards me, and I could see it. And I go, okay, we're not going to pick this up. We don't have to pick this up today. We don't have to react the same way we always have. So I have felt a very clear choice point, and it takes a minute to, I think, sort of get to that place and say, like, do I want to go the old path, or do I want to go to the new path? And start to say, like, do you want to be healed, or do we want to keep holding this?
Yes.
Do we want to keep being this person, or do we want to be this person? There's a lot of choice in it, but it takes a lot of like stepping out and giving yourself space to start to see those pieces.
I wonder if we don't recreate negative
Yes.
experiences based on, like, just for an example, when I was a kid, there was always a fight on the holidays, like a birthday, right? And all of us kids would be out sitting on the porch, and it would be waiting to go to the happy birthday event, and there'd be a fight. And so for years during my marriage, I would recreate that experience every holiday. I would start the fight.
Wow.
Yes. But I didn't know I was doing it until one day I was like, wow, that used to happen all the time when I was a kid. And from that time on, I was able to release it because now I saw the pattern.
Yes.
And I was able to stop doing that.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was, and I think we come up with opportunities like choices all the time. Are we going to recreate what we've been doing in the past that we know doesn't work, or are we going to move on? And that's how we release. We move on.
You're right, and we have to stop it, because even when you're talking, I remember times where one thing would happen and I flip all the way back to my younger self when I was rejected, when things happen, when people said this, and I go back to all the negative talk that somebody said to me, and it just like makes you even more down. But then as you grow up, and it's not easy. You have to, when you're growing, you got to practice. That's why it's called growing and expansion. You have to practice some positive self-talk, because we know for sure that the negative talk is going to always be there. That's not going anywhere. It's been there since childhood. So now, knowing this as an adult and knowing this from this show, you could begin to practice positive self-talk. Donna, this is a tough question. How do we do that? How do we go about saying enough?
I mean, this has been, I keep saying all these processes because they do take a long time. And it felt very uncomfortable and awkward for me. Think we're 4 people alone in this room talking about how difficult this is to kind of get to this place. So I understand the challenge and how awkward this could be. But I mean, I started to just tell myself all day long, you're doing fine. You're doing okay. Everything's fine. And it seems crazy and it seems awkward and weird because we're so conditioned to sort of not be that gentle or soft or whatever, especially to ourselves. but sort of just starting to say, like, everything's fine.
Yeah.
And then that really started to start the sieve of, like, all the junk starting to fall away, because none of it actually matters. None of it's actually true, especially today.
Yeah.
It might have been true 20 years ago,
Yeah.
but today I'm okay. Today
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Nothing is happening right now. So being more present and reminding yourself often, all day, I do this.
That touched me right here.
Oh, good.
Go ahead,
Good.
no, go ahead, Carolyn.
And I lost mine because I was like in deep thought,
Yeah.
like listening to you. So the question was, how do we do that? So I think we have to. Oh God, go to Denise. I lost it. I'm in
It's
deep thought now. I
okay.
can't do it.
I think too that even if we are, like, I think, you're saying to yourself, everything's okay, everything's good. Sometimes it's not. Like, sometimes I'm challenged with some hurdles or something I need to overcome or do or take care of. And even though, so instead of stepping into self-blame and saying, you did this or you caused this, okay, so there's a challenge and a hurdle. There isn't life without challenge and hurdles, but saying that I'm good. Like, you're handling this one day at a time, and we handle one hurdle, one challenge at a time in the moment. And so, Donna, I think you're right. The secret sauce is staying in the moment, because when I start losing it is when I start going way out, way too far, and with these challenges and things I need to address, and it's too far, it's too much, and then you crash. So staying in the moment, one day at a time, working on what does challenge you.
Mine came back to me. So what I was going to say was, for me, I think both of them are right, of course, too, but it's about trying to just be a little more positive. And if you're able to see situations, and even if you're halfway to the negative side, just try to find something positive, and you're staying there, I think you're gonna have less of the negative thoughts.
Yeah, that's really good, ladies. And you know what works for me? So I created a journal, and it's called "Let Me Be Me: Confidence in Being the Real Me." But that's not what I'm talking about right now. I have this book about this big, and it says positive attitudes on the front of it. So every day I get up, I write, I am enough, I am loved, I am cherished, and I write all these positive affirmations, and I do it in the morning, and it's this big, so it's not overwhelming. I'm not like writing 20 pages. It's just like 5 lines, and I write, I am good, I know I am blessed, I'm loved, and I'm cherished, and I write some really good affirmations in there every day, and I'm starting to believe them.
That's
What?
nice.
So it takes practice, and every day you write these things down, and you could change them. Maybe you say, today I'm amazing, I am great, I'm a giver, I lend, it comes back to me, whatever, and you write these every day, and then you'll be surprised how much better you're feeling. You're like starting to believe these things, and that's the thing with positive talk. It makes it, you can ingrain negative into you, you can ingrain positive talk into you. So we just gave you some tips, but I want to talk about the last positive things you said to yourself, and how did it make you feel? Like, when the negative came up and it was really bad and you said something positive, how did it make you feel?
Wonderful. I always try to remind myself I'm accomplished, because that's one that feels like a struggle for me. Just this morning, I was reflecting on my inner child and kind of sending her love, and then I realized she was sending it back to me, because we both were sort of feeling like, did I let you down vibes? And I felt the receivership of that as well as the giving it back to her. So I think just think of that cycle. Just anytime you tell yourself good, how good that feels, and that heals all of you. And healing those lines are benefit for everyone.
Okay.
So I guess it's maybe about a week ago now, I found out I didn't get the job that I was so convinced I got. It felt like my dream job. It felt like everything had gone right. And, the minute I got the email, I was like, don't go there. This is disappointing. We can be honest about it. We don't have to hide. And it was like, well, you know what? There has to be something else for me. And, this is not a rejection of me. Like, I am enough and I am accomplished and all of that. And, you know, it worked. I think it worked. And it's still, of course, disappointing, but like, you know what? It's not about me. I want to say one other thing real quick. Somebody told me once to take a picture of yourself from when you were a kid. And obviously it's good to pick a picture like you like, because of course we all have pictures of ourselves when we were kids that we don't like. And put it someplace near you, and every day say, what does she need? Or he, if you're a he. Yeah. What does this child need? And I picked one of my favorite school pictures, and it's on my desk, and I love to look at it and think about that.
Nice, that's great.
I really struggle with self-image, and I just remember looking at myself in the mirror the other day because I was feeling yucky, and said, "You're beautiful." And so I think I really had to work at doing that, like looking in the mirror and, you know, just saying you're beautiful. And sometimes that means a lot. And we don't always know, like, where that stuff comes from, but it's there. And I like what you said, Joan, about journaling in the morning, because before the bad thoughts even get a chance to reach your brain, you're already flipping the narrative. And so I think that's really good.
Yeah, I mean, you got to put in the work if you want to see the results. And my thing is, I am enough. I am enough. I tell myself that daily. There's a song by Maverick City that says, I am enough, you know. And so I like to tell myself that I am enough because he's enough. So tips to improve self-talk. Talk to yourself as you would someone you love. Every day, get up. I don't care how hard it is. Like, I love you, girl. You're going to look better by noon. You know, whatever it is, talk to yourself, right? And listen carefully to what your inner voice is saying. If it's running amok, breathe, right? And change the narrative. Don't listen to that story it's trying to tell you. Also, treat yourself as you would a good friend. You know, you like your friends, you go out, treat yourself, take yourself out. Treat yourself as you would a good friend. And watch for words like, I can't do this, I can't, you know, and I don't like myself, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like my hair, I don't like my hips, you know, we say that a lot. I used to say it all the time, I don't like my stomach, but now I like it, right? And then change your narrative thoughts, and guess what? It takes practice, practice, practice. You're like, I don't have time for doing that. You could do it in a car, you could do it in a bathroom, you could do it in the shower, you could do it at the supermarket. Take the time for yourself to tell yourself how great you are, because you really are great, right? So we're here to affirm you, to lift you up, to encourage you, and we want you to be motivated and inspired, and most of all, we want you to feel loved, all right? Follow us on YouTube, CNJN TV, Facebook page, everywhere. We're everywhere. LinkedIn, Vimeo, follow us. And today I'm with Donna
Hutchinson.
Carolyn Poiker.
Denise Cavalier.
And I am Dr. Joan Coleman, and this is the Exchange. Let me be me. All right? Be your great, authentic self. See you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.